Whether it's the myth that Viking raiders wore horned helmets, or the belief that the American frontier looked like the Wild West as depicted in spaghetti westerns, popular culture has changed the way many imagine the past. As discussed in Catherine and Donahue's Fact Through Fiction, a case study of televised historical drama's influence on audiences' perceptions of the past. Many individuals gain most of their information about history from television and films set in the past. There is no guarantee that any particular drama is factually accurate, whether that is because of a lack of research or budget to accurately depict the past, or because of intentional changes that benefit the plot or attempt to make the characters more relatable to modern audiences. There is much debate over whether or not historical fiction has a responsibility to depict history accurately, if telling a good story is more important, as Stephanie Merritt discussed in The Guardian. Different productions have different approaches to this problem. Some TV series choose to create highly realistic sets and costumes which accurately show how the past would have looked, while having their stories centered around invented characters and events. Others tell fictionalized versions of true stories, with real historical figures as their characters. Let's know some of the most accurate TV shows. Before moving ahead, make sure to hit the subscribe button. Number 5 is Mad Men. Mad Men takes place at a 1960s ad agency in Manhattan, and includes flashbacks to the protagonist's childhood during the Great Depression and time in the military during the Korean War. As noted by Time, creator Matthew Weiner was fastidious about getting the historical details of the show right. Everything from ensuring that every document seen on camera was typed with a period-appropriate typewriter to ensuring the fruit, which has been specially grown to be larger over time, looked like it came from a 1960s supermarket. While the show's characters are fictional, the things that they do and experience are highly realistic. One of the major ongoing themes in the series is the era's sexism and the changing role of women. Mad Men's female characters depict different ways that women responded to these challenges. Whether it's frustrated homemaker Betty Draper realizing she doesn't really know her husband, pragmatic beauty Joan Holloway using her sexuality to survive in a male-dominated office, or ambitious Peggy Olson going from secretary to copywriter, their stories are fictional but representative of true experiences of actual 60s women. The series also included references to many historical events, from civil rights to Marilyn Monroe's death. These events are seen through the eyes of the characters, giving the viewer an idea of what it would have been like to live through them. For example, the Kennedy assassination ruins the mood at a wedding by taking attention from the bride, while the moon landing is overshadowed by a beloved character's death. Number 4 is John Adams. The miniseries John Adams is an adaptation of historian David McCullough's biography of the American president. The series focuses on the personal life of John Adams and emphasizes how difficult life in the 1700s was. McCullough stated, via the Boston Globe, "I don't think any film has been done with such authenticity." The series really helps viewers appreciate the grittiness and difficulty of daily living in the late 18th century, explained St. Joseph's University professor Dr. Jeffrey Hyson. Far from glamorizing the past, it depicts the unsanitary conditions both in the rural and urban settings in 1700s America, including grisly amputations and other medical procedures. As director Tom Hooper explained to NPR, one of the goals of the series was to show viewers how uncertain the time Adams lived in was, and to provide some understanding of what it would be like to actually live through the American Revolution. Often, founding fathers are depicted in a way that is larger than life, with the knowledge of how influential they would become. But John Adams tried to keep the introduction of major historical figures such as George Washington low-key, to show that it was unknown who the heroes were going to be. Number 3 is Chernobyl. Chernobyl tells the story of the famous 1986 nuclear disaster. After the explosion at the power plant, an entire city had to evacuate due to radiation. While it is known that at least 30 people died from radiation, many details about exactly what happened are unknown. As writer and executive producer Craig Mazin told Variety, the show attempted to be different than typical disaster shows, and focused on what the experience would have been like for individuals who were there. While journalist Masha Green criticized the show's depiction of how people in the Soviet Union would have behaved, he also praised the show's visuals, stating, "The material culture of the Soviet Union is reproduced with an accuracy that has never before been seen in Western television, or film, or, for that matter, in Russian television or film. Clothes, objects, and light itself seem to come straight out of 1980s Ukraine, Belarus, and Moscow." One of the major challenges in researching the story of Chernobyl was that it took place in the Soviet Union, and a lot of information about the event was covered up at the time. The accounts that are available are often contradictory, forcing the production to make decisions about which to believe were most accurate. "I tended to default to accounts that were less dramatic," Mazin told BAFTA Guru. "In telling a story like Chernobyl, you never want to feel like you are helping the drama. The tragedy is tragic enough." Number 2 is The Crown. The Crown follows the reign of Queen Elizabeth II, with multiple actors and actresses playing the royal family, politicians, and other figures in the Queen's life from 1947 to the 90s. Series creator Peter Morgan has clarified that The Crown is a combination of historical research and invention. The Crown is a blend of fact and fiction, inspired by true events, stated royal historian Carolyn Harris. However, it worked to get a lot of things right. At the time of its release, it was the most expensive TV show ever made, and a massive part of its budget was dedicated to recreating historical costumes and building a full-sized set of Buckingham Palace. The designers have managed to accurately recreate specific garments that are quintessential to the telling of the royal family's sartorial narrative, fashion historian Raisa Bretana told Glamour. She went on to explain how the show went beyond basic recreation to create wardrobes for each character that tell a story, while remaining historically accurate. While The Crown's plot points are based on actual historical events, and the show's look is highly authentic, individual scenes and dialogue had to be invented by the show's writers. According to Robert Lacey, the show's historical consultant, that doesn't take away from the accuracy of The Crown's depictions of the royal family. "There are two sorts of truth," Lacey told Town and Country. "There's historical truth and then there's the larger truth about the past." Number 1 is The Queen's Gambit. The Queen's Gambit followed the rise of a fictional chess champion in the 1960s. Although the main character was invented for the 1983 novel that the series is based on, the story is inspired by genuine chess grandmasters of the era. As described in Esquire, the game at the heart of the series is not only depicted realistically, but utilizes actual chess matches between actual grandmasters. Some of the chess games that make up the tensest sequences in the series are versions of real games played around the world throughout history. The show has been noted for its fashion, which often seems to tell a story of its own. mirroring the internal life of the protagonist. Fashion historian Raissa Bratana explained to Glamour that the series takes place in the 1950s and 60s, and in cities around the world, and the costumes reflect this. The series also included actual chess players from the era in competitions with their fictional characters. One of these real figures was actual chess champion Nona Gaprindashvili, who was the first woman to be named a grandmaster, but Gaprindashvili and many supporters disagreed with her portrayal, believing that her actual achievements were undermined to make the fictional protagonist of the Queen's Gambit seem like more of a pioneer. As stated in the New York Times, the series claims that Gaprindashvili never faced men, but in reality, she frequently beat male competitors. If you like it, please make sure to hit the subscribe button and press the bell icon.